Welcome to Look Behind the Look, the celebrated podcast that explores your favorite looks in film, television, and fashion history. Through conversations with the fashion world's elite and award-winning hair, makeup, and costume designers on sets around the world, you will see and hear exciting tales from behind the scenes, career origin stories, and tons of advice and tips. I'm your host, Tiffany Bartok. Hey everybody, welcome to Look Behind the Look. This week's episode is the final episode in the season, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, this movie came out a couple months ago, so if you haven't seen it already, please see it and then listen, just to, prevent any spoilers. I think this episode is chock full of them. These people are very busy, and so it took a second to get them all together. And as an added bonus, we have my friend, the high evolutionary himself, on this episode talking about his experience working with Cassie and Alexei in the makeup and hair departments. So this is all three of them. This is Cassie Russek, the hair department head, makeup department head Alexei Dmitriew, and actor Chukwudi Iwuji. Here's a fun fact about Chuck. He was actually in one of my movies. Yes. So my husband directed a film called Fall to Rise, and I produced it, and that was Chuck's first job on film, not his first acting job. Of course, he is a legend, and I'm so happy and proud that the world is seeing how amazing he is. He brought a Shakespearean vibe to this role that he's going to get really into it in this episode with the hair and makeup team. So you're going to enjoy this conversation. Have fun.
We were gone for quite a while. But no matter what happens next, the galaxy still needs its guardians.
Hello, we come in peace.
Come on, Drax. Seriously, dude?
No! Ow!
Hey!
Don't forget where we came from.
We have been running our whole lives.
Pete, I'm done running.
Hi, everybody. This is the party for the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I just put up 5 fingers, just so you know. That's how excited I am. My brain is out the window. Part of the reason I'm so excited is because Chuck and I go way back. We go back to like 10 years now. And Cassie, I've been watching your work, and Alexei, of course, for years since I started this podcast. So I'm so happy to bring you all together in this masterpiece and this record-breaking film that we're going to talk about. And first, I have to address you, Chuck. You have some explaining to do to my son because, yes, we were like, we're going to go see our friend. We're going to go see our friend. And then he was like, your friend is the meanest. Why did it have to be your friend?
And I have nothing to say. I have no excuses. He's a piece of work. He's not a nice person. I hold my hands up.
Truly, truly. And that being said, let's just tell everybody that there will be some spoilers. I'm not going to be careful talking to you guys. But I assume everybody has seen this already because, it was the last in the trilogy. And let's talk about how did you all find out that you were going to come and do this film?
It was Alexei who really brought me into the mix of it. And so Legacy Effects was always going to be designing everything. And so once Alexei got brought on, he kind of brought me in, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. It was like always going to be this like big, exciting project. We just had no clue that it was this big and this exciting.
Were they able to tell you that it was Guardians, or was it a Marvel movie, or what? How was it worded to you?
Yeah, what's so funny is I actually had heard from a friend who was like, hey, I think you're going to interview for this thing. But I can't tell you what it is. And then I had a dream that it was Guardians 3. And so I texted her the next day and I was like, is this for Guardians 3? It was weird. It would just
So are you
happened.
having dreams now of winning an Oscar? Because if so, you should probably
Oh man,
pay attention.
Yes, one can dream. Yes.
And Lexi, you've done projects with Marvel for a long time. So this was just the next in the road, or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been I've been very fortunate. I've been back and forth between Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and Marvel for a couple of years now, which is like one of the coolest spots to be in, right? I mean, it's pinch me, wake up, what's going on here? So, but yeah, I mean, I work for almost 10 years now in and out of Legacy Effects, working with those guys, and you know, they're the guys that created the Iron Man suit way back from Iron Man 1, you know, and so they've been doing Captain America's shield. They've been doing all these iconic stuff. They've been building all this stuff for years. And so, you know, to be a part of with them is amazing. And, you know, I heard through the grapevine that Guardians 3 was starting and it was getting picked up, and I just threw my name in the hat with them. And then within like 2 days, they called me and they're like, "Hey, you're the guy, let's do it." And I was like, "Yep, I'm in." So, you know, we talked to Nick Cord as one of the executive producers. And he's so lovely to work with. He called me up and we had a good chat about everything. And then it just kind of went from there, you know, and we talked to Judiana Makovsky, and she's amazing. She's a costume designer. And so, you know, once all those pieces were in place, then we just, you know, made a game plan on how to approach this. And then we went.
Wow. Amazing. And Chuck, when did you get the call, and what was your process?
Mine was I was doing Peacemaker with James Gunn already, and it was on the day of we were shooting the opening dance sequence of Peacemaker. So in between takes, James pulled me aside and said, "Could I have a word with you?" And I joked with him. I said, "Is this when you realize you were meant to hire Chiwetel Ejiofor, not Chukwudi Iwuji? You know, it happens." And then he said, no, it's not that at all. He said, "No, I actually want you to play the main villain in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the High Evolutionary." And I was completely speechless. You know, I mean, what do you say to that? You know, you go from having no, you know, like, you know, Alexei is saying how at least he'd been involved with Legacy
in the universe,
working
right?
Back and forth in the universe. Cassie, mine, I was like, that's just something I'm going to go to the theaters to watch. You know, I wasn't going to be part of, even though I was doing this great DC project. I was like, that's James's other world, you know?
Right.
And so a few weeks later, we got together, did a pretty crazy test for it. You know, they literally built a set, and we got a cameraman. All these people were working for DC, I want to say. They were working for
Warner of course. Okay.
So the non-disclosures was signed all that crap. And then they built a sort of set. I had readers, I had a cameraman, James was directing. It was like almost 3 hours. Almost 3 hours. And we did like 3 big scenes, but it was a screen test for one. I knew I was the only one being tested because James wanted me. He just wanted to get something on tape, and I knew that it was mine to lose. So that's a great position to be in, really, you know.
Yeah. And where is that footage? I want to see it. Show me that footage.
It's somewhere.
Now, in creating the character's look, how did this process take shape? What were you told? And then did you bring ideas? And how did you begin the process of getting into it?
I mean, for creating Chuck's, the second, or his modern day, the pullback look, the current look, you know, I mean, really the designers at Legacy Effects, they have a great relationship with Marvel and with James Gunn. And so they handed out a ton of different looks. I mean, we always, you know, my role in all of it was to organize all of it. And then when we get designs done, then it was to step in and figure out how the best way to apply them, the best way to structure it all, the best materials that we would use so we can do that. So really it's a hand-in-hand relationship between myself and Legacy Effects and how all that comes to be. So, I mean, they design, and James always has, you know, they showed him hundreds. I mean, there's hundreds of iterations of this look that ended up being created that were so cool. I mean, all of them were so cool. And James is really awesome when he's looking at photos and it's one after another. And when he loves it, he's like, that one, and then you're like, okay, like, and then he knows, he just like, and he picks on something and it gets flushed out from there. And so, from then we just went to making it and figuring it out. The little tabs that he had in the flashback looks, they were possibly going to be for some of the recorders, and then when the recorder, we kind of didn't know, so we did a little test, and then we did a little test in house, and James really thought it was cool, and then we're like, well, let's put it on Chuck and see what happens, and then it just kind of all just gelled, and that's how it all formed.
And then how many of them are there? Was one or I mean,
no. And for prosthetics wise?
Yeah. Of his mask, of his the pullback.
Yeah. So he every day he works, he has a brand new piece. So we make new pieces every single day. So he has I believe that was counting a bald cap with the back of the head, the chin strapped, so 3, 4, and 5. I believe he had 5 appliances on, and so it's all cut in different ways and kind of puzzled in together. And so, it's created like that.
Wow. Okay. And so now this is always the mystery to me, is who does what, hair, what in prosthetics when they're as heavy as that, and they're that serious. Where does hair, where does props, where does art department, and where does makeup and special effects take place? Because I know you guys were not, you weren't doing a lot of CGI in this film, which is shocking. That's what I read, right? Am I reading something correctly?
No, yeah. I mean, there's really on the majority, I would say 98% of everything that we do is all practical, all in house. Yeah. And so there's a couple little digital elements with some of the human animal eyes and some stuff like that, right? But for Chuck's look, it's really a breakdown of how are we gonna apply it? How is he gonna be comfortable in it? James really he stressed that with Chuck. He said he's an amazing actor. He's an amazing actor, and I really want to see his face, and I want to make sure we get all the nuances of his performance. So we really kind of framed it to be around his face, so it would always show. And that's that was the number one thought going into this, was make sure that we set Chuck up to do what he's going to do.
Oh wow! And then Cassie, what was your role in all of that assembly?
Hair wise, it was so cool because when they did decide to do the 2 pieces for the flashback scene, and we knew, okay, we have to do some type of a really cool haircut. One, that it was really, I don't know, it was really important for me that Chuck, that you could live with that haircut because we were shooting for 9 months. So I was like, he has to walk around in his daily life with this haircut. So needs to look like something that he wants to have every day. And then it needed to be cleared. There needed to be enough skin cleared for the prosthetics so that it could just like blend seamlessly. So we knew we were getting into a bald fade.
I see.
And then on top of it, Chuck, your hair texture is so incredible. So I never tried to mess with your hair texture. And so we knew we needed to get it short enough so that when Alexei was doing a bald cap, we didn't have to do any, we didn't have to like just gel it down, or I didn't want to mess with your hair. So we had to get it short enough that it could work, but long enough that we still could do the sponge, and it looked great. And so the cool thing was we had a lot of photos that we showed kind of everyone to say it was you, it was Judiana, James Gunn, Alexei. And we just kind of all together decided, like, I think this is the haircut. And then we brought in Tommy Dudley, who became your barber the whole show. He's just a fantastic barber, fantastic human being, amazing. He did your haircut, and it was like, that was all she wrote, right? It was like,
he nailed it.
Nailed it for the first time, and we never had to do it again. So, well, not that we didn't have to do it again. You had to get your haircut.
Of course. Yeah. You had to maintain it. Yeah.
We never had to do like a second test.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time anything about hair was mentioned to me, I was in London, in Shoreditch, actually. And I got a call from Nick Corder. And, it was a lovely chat about how great Indian food is in England and how much he misses it. Then seamlessly went into, so how do you feel about going bald? And I was very calm on the phone, but my face was like, I was like, because like Cassie said, you have to think about, this is the job you're going in for, but you have to think of the wider, bigger picture and stuff. I was like, I don't think I'm going to say. I thought, okay, can we find an option apart from going bald, in the hope that they wouldn't come back and say, no, you have to go bald? Because let's face it, if they come back and said, no, you have to go bald, I'd have gone bald. So I'm really, really, really grateful that we managed to find a very cool couple, which actually we worked really well, because I thought it was very interesting to see a character like that in the movie like this, in a genre like this, with that sort of very recognizable haircut. Does that make sense? As opposed to trying to necessarily do something wacky and crazy with the look and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's really true.
We all talked about, by the way, was making it look like a villain that sort of never had existed. And so, like, why can't he just have a cool haircut? It makes sense. Just have a cool haircut.
Yeah, all of the looks that he had in the present time and the later time, I mean, in the flashbacks and the present time, were vain. Like, they were based in vanity, which made complete sense. So at first, before I knew the origin story of the scarring and everything like this, I thought that he was just so vain that he was just keeping his skin tight.
Plastic surgery.
Like these are I get a facelift every year, and I don't care that you can see the
the pins and all that.
So it made perfect sense, and then it was such a bonus to find out why it was like that.
And there were little touches in the costume and whatever, like you mentioned the vanity. You had these little, if you watch closely in the flashback, these little half rings of silver. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of vanity around his presentation and stuff, that really popped.
Was there any talk of choosing purple? I mean, I love Prince. I don't know. It's such a royal color. I love the purple. Was there, is there something that comes back to the Guardians, or was that just completely a new idea?
I mean, to be honest with you, majority of that came from just, I think, costume designs from Juliana to James. And so I think the look, you asked us earlier about like how props gets involved and hair and makeup and all of that. And so to go back to that, it's a really a working collaboration between all departments almost at all times, right? Because costumes had their designs for what they wanted, and then now Legacy had to take that design element and build it into the skull cap and the head. And then, because we're putting it on his head, we took that element, and then costumes takes what they take. And so we all kind of, but obviously I remember going to the costume department and picking, and we talked purple swatches and everything. And like, this is the purple, this is the color, this is the paint. So then when I was painting the top parts and, and dialing that in, it was the same purple, you know what I mean? Like you really have to communicate with all this stuff, because you can't show up on set and we're like, oh man, I did purple number 5 and you did purple number 8,
Right,
and so
right, of course.
It doesn't work that way. So you really have to make sure that everybody's talking, everybody's communicating, and it's really, because it's not just about hair, makeup, it's really the whole look. I mean, it's everything. It's every department. Every department has a hand in something that, costumes, props, and we all have to work together to create this amazing thing so Chuck can go out and do his amazing thing, and so it's a really collaboration for sure.
It was so amazing. I love sort of being in the background when you're the subject of the conversation. So they're talking about me, but I was watching these different heads, whether it was Cassie, Alexia, Julianne, and even Stefan, sometimes just trying to figure out like, how do we need that to pop a bit more, we need the light on that, I need it more metallic, and they're talking about, and it's so exciting because I have no clue how to do that sort of stuff. So watching them figure that out, and one of the things that your viewers might not know is the amount of R&D that keeps going on even while you're filming. It doesn't just, now we're starting to film, we've got it, it's set. No, it's like you look at it, they watch that day of shooting, whatever. How can we? I mean, everything from right down to the skull cap to the fade I had to, even the costume bits were being worked on throughout the shoot. That was my experience. So it was really awesome to just like, I mean, there was a point, even if you're thinking of the suit, where the suit came in and so much had been done and tapered in and more bits had been added and stuff, or a piece, whatever. And you just go, wow, the research never stops. And the number of conversations Scotty and Alexei had about how do we need this to stop bunching up so much here when you're moving, because, you know, it was a very passionate performance. And, you know, that stuff, the heat affects it, the whatever affects it, how do we give more room there? It really never. And then Cassie would come in and, okay, we need just a bit less, a bit more off the top so the skull cap can sit, because it's helping it sit. But I mean, it's just like, it was absolutely fascinating, the fact that that work keeps going on throughout to head towards perfection. In fact, I believe it was like in Comic-Con when you and Scotty came to do my whatever work on, and the materials for the prosthetics were completely different from the last step when we shot. They continued the R&D to find an even more efficient combination of texture. Remember that? And we're like, oh yeah. If only we had that day one, you know, the work kept happening.
So by the time you have your own origin story, it'll be complete.
They'll do it in 20 minutes.
You know what was so cool when you mentioned Steph? So he was our head of VFX, and they had such this enormous VFX job on this show. Like, his VFX is just outrageously amazing. And so he established with us, I mean, I think we would have done this anyway, but he was very much like, we don't have a fix it in post mentality. And we were like, so it was like, let's get it perfect every time. Like, I remember when we're doing tests with like Will Poulter, he would come up and go, you see this little peach fuzz right here? Like, let's fix that so I don't have to fix it later. And we're like, okay, yeah, we'll fix that. So anytime that there was anything that could have been a little bit off, that you would go fix it in post, like, that was not a thing for us. So like, we talk about the CGI or talk about any VFX help, we really had that mentality of like, we're not going to ever say that. So like, fixing it every day going like, how can we make this just a little bit better? That was absolutely such a thing. It's so cool that you noticed that, Chuck. It's so cool.
Are you kidding? I was listening to all these conversations. I thought it was absolutely fascinating, because that's sort of what you take as the actor to know you've got to go do your job when the camera starts running, because this amount of work is going into, I mean, details that I couldn't see. I literally couldn't see, but were screaming at them when they would look in the monitor and all that stuff. So that just heightens everything for me as a performer, because it's all about, it's like, you take care of the details, the whole picture's going to take care of itself, you know, in that sense. Yeah,
that's fascinating. Yeah, because Chuck, you've been on so many different varieties of budgets and whatnot, and you've been acting in so many things in the stage that, you know, you sometimes have to take responsibility. You have to go like, wait, okay, now did we have this on last time? But you probably didn't have to think about any of that, so you were free to really think about your character this time.
The whole team around me, you know, I swear there were times when even April Chen, my PA, would point out something to me. I was like, oh yeah, I need to, but you know, everyone was on it. Really on the details of stuff that I didn't have to think about it. I honestly, it's like Alexei said, everything was geared towards, even when I didn't feel I needed it to be more comfortable, they were aware of what you need to be more comfortable, like temperature wise, like that will get too hot, that will get too sweaty. I'm pretty certain, Alexei, did you say you worked on the first Iron Man, or Legacy worked on the first Iron Man? I'm pretty certain that the development of the texture of the costumes for comfort has come on a long way from that first Iron Man suit. So everyone was on it to know, right down to remembering those damn rings. Because every time I needed to go to the bathroom, they had pretty sharp edges. I didn't want to go to the bathroom wearing them, not remembering how to put them on and stuff like that. There was always someone. Yeah, I was. It's going to be really interesting going back to do a play after this experience.
Broadway or bust.
I'll be
dressing yourself. You're like, oh, can someone get the zipper?
Put this on myself? Am I dressing? Okay, all right, you know.
That's hilarious.
Well, you know, we're always we're always tinkering with all this stuff also because every movie, like these are one-offs, I mean,
Yeah.
like it's
Right.
a one time, we have one chance to make it and one chance to try to get it right. I mean, there is stuff like the Nebula and the Gamoras and the Drax that we do get to refine, right? Like every time we get it back, we're like, this didn't work. Let's trick that. Let's fix this. Let's do this. And so, but like, with the character like Chuck's for this particular time, I mean, hopefully we go back to it at one point, but if we didn't, like, we all entered the mindset of like, we have to try to make this work now. And because we do tests and we do all this stuff, but you can't, no one can predict how hot it's going to be on set and the action and what Chuck's going to be doing. So it's every day you learn. You're like, oh man, that yesterday was such a unique experience. Like how can we adapt to fix it? And so it's always just adapting. It's information and adapting as we go. And so, I mean, that's the best you can do, right?
Yeah, like I pointed out that the work you guys really did on this part of the piece, because it's an intense performance at certain points, and that's I was just about to ask moving, that. Yeah.
And did you feel inhibited at all? I mean, how did this work? How did you take it in little bite size?
No, that's the point. Is that I just look. I knew I was in good hands, and the remit I got, whether it was from Alexei or from James or from Cassie or whoever, was go do your thing. Just, go do your thing. We'll work around it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so it wasn't limited. In fact, sometimes I'd forget. I mean, it was really down. It was almost like wearing a mask sometimes, like a facial mask, clay mask at most. And it really didn't get in the way of my acting. I'm so grateful for that, because if you notice, I didn't even have eyebrows. I remember there was a little discussion, should we give him eyebrows? And I was like, no, the reptilian thing is beautiful. The problem with that is eyebrows are such a huge part of expression. So since I had lost that, it was so important that everything else moved with my face, because I didn't have that anymore. And the detail that went into making sure that happened, it meant that I didn't have to ever worry about, I don't think I ever had a note of being restricted anywhere, from head to foot in my movement. And that, for a role like that, was a real gift,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we went without the no eyebrows too, because the makeup choice we made was just to kind of do a little bit of heavier shadow in the corners of his eyes and like kind of in the eye socket. And that really like helped to pop your eyes, and it really made your eyes intense. It was like there was no expression. It was just these intense eyes all the time. So it was
reptilian, to be like totally reptilian.
It was cool. It looked really great. I was really happy with it.
How did you? Oh, go ahead, Cassie. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, there would be days on set where you'd be going, Chuck, and like you would do, like you'd make one choice and it was like brilliant, and then James would say like do something, like do this or do that, because he's always on the mic.
Yeah,
and you would just do it and do it and do it, and it was different every time. And like sometimes we'd be wanting to go in and maybe like do a tweak or something, but like your performance was so amazing that we would be like standing there like should we you were giving
I mean, he was in the zone.
It's that
so brilliant. I'm not interrupting this. No way.
It's that time, right, that I can relate to, where you're looking at the AD and you're like, please say that makeup and hair, please say it, and they won't say it. And they're like, no. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, you just like, you can't, like what you're watching like outweighs everything. Like I just remember there was one day where you say incinerate them. I don't know if you remember this day.
Yeah, I do.
You did it so many ways, and there was one time you screamed incinerate them, and I was like,
me? Incinerate me?
Like, oh my God. I was like, I can't even.
That
was so emotional.
What was so great about that set was the investment everyone had in the project. I know that sounds obvious that you're working on this, that's you've run a crew before. These guys have been on many sets before. There was a level of investment and attention from everyone, from obviously you guys, to the grip, to the second grip, you know what I mean, of what was going on, that I really felt like I was, every time I came to film, I felt like I was going on stage, because you felt like people were watching and waiting for the performance and hanging on. There was such a respect for the space that happened with the work, that I hope it's not unique. I hope I can experience that more and more. There was a real reverence for that moment where the work started happening. And you knew if they were coming in to adjust stuff, is because they had to. It wasn't a question. And, you know, there's some, and you realize there's a lot of stuff you film that isn't really about what's going on in the scene. It's about what it looks like, make it perfect and whatever. This was about the truth, was what everyone was going after, you know, and they knew they would go do the work. Okay, his thing is a bit, I remember there were days when Alexei, I used to joke like Alexei was such a perfectionist. And there were days when this had misbehaved, you know, and he was not happy with it at the end of the day. But he wouldn't interrupt while it was happening, because he knew between him and Cassie, they talk about it, and Scotty, and they'd fix it for the next day of filming. Does that make sense? So that knowing the balance between adjustment and, like, you know, Cassie was saying, let's not get in the way now, knowing that there was still work to be done, you know, constantly, you know, which is sort of what we do as actors also. Some days you hit it and whatever, you go, you got to let it go sometimes. That's the best it's going to be for today. You go home, you recharge, and you come back and be better, you know, in that sense.
Yes. And you hope you get to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's such in these big movies, it's you know, you show up every day, and we're all artists, right? And I mean, some days you can draw an amazing thing, and some days you're like, I can't do this circle, like I just don't have it in me, you know. And you know, and so it's with these, it's really it's a marathon, you know. I mean, you're every day you're there, and you got to show up, and like, you know, we're there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning every day, and like that's when, like, that's it, that's your A game right now, I'll go, you know. And it's just it's intense. It's an intense experience, because it isn't, you know, you try to do your best every day. You try to do, you know, you try to bring it every day. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're not machines. You know, I mean, we're all, you know, we have lives, and we have this, and we're tired, and you're just trying your best every day, right?
But it sounds like the set is very disciplined and respectful, and you guys had a lot of support to be able to succeed, which is like the key, right? It sounds like it was a very nurturing set in supporting each other, and that doesn't always happen. You know, it's always sometimes it's every man for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We're all in it together, and so you just make it. You know, you support each other the best you can, and I mean, you know, luckily that we're the artists that we're all perfectionists, and we all try to strive every day for a high level, you know. And so it's great to be a part of that, you know, and with so many people that have that mindset.
You could see, like, you know, a conversation being had, like with Alexei and I, like we'd be like, oh, okay, so I think if I do this, this would be better, and so this, you know, and you just kind of say it to each other just to say it, and even get reassurance. Like if he's like, oh, I'm going to fix this tomorrow, and then I'm like, and then I'm going to fix this tomorrow, we both just go, yeah, that sounds really good. And it is kind of how you do it, because you can tell each other everything and be a perfectionist, and maybe you do see something on the monitor that you're like, oh, I really need to go fix that, but the performance is so amazing, like we're going to fix that tomorrow. So that is kind of good. Oh, tell me quickly what your favorite day on set was, like when you saw something that you really like nailed it out of the park. Cassie? Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. I'm going to say two things.
Every single day.
Yeah. What I'm going to say is, when we did the Humanimals, that was like just unbelievably cool for us as artists. We were like, we're doing this. This is insane.
Yes.
But what I will say in regard to Chuck, that specific day when I was saying about the incinerate them, you were giving 150% every take you did when you were, and you said incinerate them in so many ways that I was like, how do you think of this many ways to say it? And sometimes you were screaming it. And I was like, how does he have the energy to do this at 150 every time. So I will say that I do remember that day, like it is burned into my brain just how insanely talented you are.
That's that Shakespeare right there.
Yeah.
That's that Shakespeare. Amazing.
And also, I should also note that James plays music. He has the score kind of almost finished, or there's a type of score that he plays. So I remember it was this big, like maybe operatic.
It was Purcell's Remember Me, and it was from what's the Dido and Aeneas, isn't it? That opera. I actually sent him that piece of music because I was like, this is it, Remember Me, and all that stuff. So he played that. I remember that. Yeah.
It gives me chills.
And there was like the little sort of stuffed rocket was in the middle of the room. So you could have the rocket reference, you doing this all this many ways, the opera playing. And I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is happening. Alexei, what was your favorite?
I think it was one of the first days we got to set, and it was one of the first days we were shooting in the lab, and the design, these sets are so amazing. I mean, the ceiling is done, right? Like everything is
every
done.
detail.
The grates, the floor, every detail. I mean, you walk in and you're immersed. And Beth Mickle is a production designer, and her team are just absolutely I mean, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Every day you walk in, you're like, what
the hell?
So cool.
Yeah.
And right. and I remember one of the first days we were with, it was when Miriam, who plays Vim, and Nico plays Teal. Yeah, when they showed up with Chuck in the same day, and we had some other reporters all done in makeup, and it was just that time that we were sitting there, and I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this. This is cool. Like everybody looked cool. Everybody was in such a cool, like, everyone was so excited, and it was just this set and these costumes and these makeups, and just everybody was there, and it was just I'll remember that day. That was a really cool day.
And committed. Everyone was committed. So committed. Everyone was committed.
Yeah.
Yes. Chuck,
my favorite day. I think my favorite day is the same as Cassie's.
Nice.
That scene, I did that scene in the test.
Okay.
I remember reading it when James first sent me the script and going, I really hope we do this in the test. There's just always one scene in every production, everything that you go, this is the essence of why I want to do this role. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that scene was very much it. And then, like you, I was surprised, Cassie, that they had the Purcell ready to go on the music. And I remember actually seeing the lovely German grip guy. Do you remember what's his tall German guy? And I remember seeing his face in between a couple of takes as the music was playing, and I went, okay, this is what I'm going to be speaking into. Does that make sense?
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yes.
And it was such a powerful scene, and we did it, and I remember sweating. I remember thinking I felt like I'd done 3 hours of Richard III. I felt drained. And as an actor, to have that on set is pretty damn magical. So I'd say that was my favorite day of filming also. And it was a really big scene, as it comes out in the movie,
I always say that if you can make the sound guy do that look over, this, then that's it.
He actually came up to me. There was a break, and he came up to me and just went, "What is that piece of music?" Ooh. That's when you've sort of like shifted things with people watching.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for all of your successes. I mean, Chuck, I don't want to say I knew it. I knew it all along. I knew you had it in you when you looked in that rear view mirror with Daphne Rubin Vega and Father Eyes.
Yeah.
And Cassie and Alexei, you're amazing at what you do. And I can't wait to see you get all the accolades. And tell me again, just let's leave everybody with the exact number of prosthetics that broke the record. And tell me the exact fact.
Oh, you're on mute. Alexei, you're muted.
Lexi, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you.
That's all
I
right.
put the air conditioner on. I didn't want it to be loud.
No problem.
I believe it's 22,000. Here, I got
500.
So it was 22,542 appliances. We did it on over 100 actors and over 1,000 background artists as well. We used almost 500 wigs, and we went through about 117 pairs of contact lenses as well.
I mean, amazing. And this is all quantified in, you kept track and you just turned in the numbers and that's tallied up. There you go. All right.
Guinness
I'd like
Book
to
of
see
Records has it.
Definitely.
It's a record.
Has it. The ultimate record. You
know?
know?
broken the record that was held by the Grinch, right? Yep. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So beat that, people.
Yeah.
And good luck to anyone if they beat that.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing to see you all. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, guys. Lovely seeing you guys. Miss
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
You too. You too.
Look Behind the Look is a Vinyl Foot production, written by me, your host, Tiffany Bartok, produced by Jace Bartok, edited by Evan Rivard. If you're interested in learning more, find our video version on the YouTube channel, Look Behind the Look Podcast. There you can see rare photos and clips from our guests. And please follow us on Twitter at LookBehindPod and Instagram at LookBehindTheLook. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. And tell your friends and spread the word. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or any podcatcher of your choice. Thanks for listening to Look Behind the Look.